Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here tonight to film a tag video. I'm doing the 52 Nifty Bookish Questions tag, and I was tagged by Sean the Book Maniac. The original tag was created by Adrian over at Strip Cover Lit, and I will link both of their channels down below. So I have the questions here on my iPad, and I'm just gonna rip right through them. So let's go. Question number 1, what book are you reading right now? I'm reading multiple books right now, so let's see if I can remember them all. I'm reading my Grant biography by Ron Chernow. I'm reading Everything's Trash, But It's Okay by Phoebe Robinson. That's my audiobook. I'm reading a book for the BookTube Prize, which I can't talk about. I'm reading The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, which is a fantasy novel. And I'm reading Moonwalking with Einstein, which is a nonfiction. Oh, and I'm reading An American Sickness, which is another nonfiction. So, yeah, a little bit crazy right now. Question 2, what was the last thing you highlighted? I didn't highlight anything like physically highlight with a highlighter, but today when I was reading my chapter of Moonwalking with Einstein, I did use some Post-it note tags to remember some things that I wanted to discuss with Doris when I check in with her, because I'm buddy reading Moonwalking with Einstein with her. So it was in Moonwalking with Einstein. Question 3, what do you plan to read next? I plan to either start The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks or Dreams from My Father by Barack Obama next. Question 4, one fiction writer, living or dead, with which I would like to grab a drink. I'm going to say Michelle Obama. I would love to have a drink with Michelle Obama. Oh, it's fiction writer, sorry. She's a nonfiction writer. Let me think. A fiction writer that I'd like to have a drink with. I'm going to go with Stephen King. Question 5, one nonfiction writer, living or dead, with which I would like to grab a drink. So I'm going to use my answer from the previous question, Michelle Obama, because I would love to have a conversation with her. Question 6, one poet, living or dead, with whom I would like to grab a drink. I don't know a lot of poets, but I have always enjoyed Shel Silverstein, the children's poetry author, so that would probably be fun. Question 7, one booktuber with whom I'd like to grab a drink. Obviously, Sean the Book Maniac. I think we would have a lot of fun. I would like to go to some of those bars that he keeps showing us in Japan. So let's put that on the to-do list, Sean. Let's see. Question 8, Emily Dickinson or Edgar Allan Poe? I'm going to say Poe because I've never read any Dickinson. 9, Hemingway or Fitzgerald? I hated The Great Gatsby. I also don't particularly like Hemingway, although I did like The Old Man and the Sea, so I'm going to go with Hemingway. Question 10, Jane Austen or Charles Dickens? Jane Austen, obviously. Question 11, Harris or Hitchens? I'm not entirely sure who Harris or Hitchens are, so I'm going to skip that. Question 12, Stephen King or Michael Crichton? While I have enjoyed some Michael Crichton books, I'm going to have to go with Stephen King here. He's one of my favorite authors, obviously. Question 13, Bret, Easton, Ellis, or Chuck Palahniuk? I don't think I've read either of them, and I don't care to, so I'm going to say neither. Question 14, Kurt Vonnegut or John Green? I've only read one Kurt Vonnegut, and I didn't like it. It was Slaughterhouse-Five. I just found it too surreal for me. And I have enjoyed some John Green, not all John Green that I've read, but I like a good YA every now and again, so I'm going to say John Green. 15, Shakespeare's poems or plays? Never read any Shakespeare's poetry and don't really love Shakespeare, although I did find Romeo and Juliet to be quite amusing, so I'll go with plays. Question 16, Adrian Fort or Dalton Gentry? Who could choose? Who could choose between the two? Not I. Question 17, Cormac, McCarthy, or J.K. Rowling? Please, J.K. Rowling. Who? Nah. Cormac, McCarthy, nah. Nah, dude. Question 18, Hannibal, Lecter, or Voldemort? Hannibal Lecter is far, far scarier than Voldemort. Voldemort was not scary to me. Hannibal Lecter. Question 19, T.C. Boyle or George Saunders? Haven't read either, so can't choose. Question 20, good writing or a good story? I don't believe that's an either or. I'm going to have to go with Sean's answer on this one. That is not an either or. It needs to have both good writing and a good story. Question 21, YA or children's lit? I enjoy both YA and children's lit at different times and from different authors, so I find that a difficult, either or there. I'm going to say children's lit because I feel like YA is so new that there's very little classic YA where there's a lot of classic children's stuff, so I'm going to go children's lit here. 22, irony or humor? I like some good irony. I'm a sarcastic person myself, so I'm going to go with irony. 23, sci-fi or horror? Sci-fi all the way. When I was in high school, I was a huge horror fan. I read tons of horror all the time, but I cannot read horror anymore because I am a wimp. The only horror that I read now is the odd Stephen King, and even that's too creepy for me sometimes. 24, fantasy or nonfiction? Really? Really? Who could pick between fantasy and nonfiction? I love fantasy and I love nonfiction, and I refuse to pick between the two. I want both. 25, would I rather find a new favorite contemporary writer or a new favorite old-time great? Oh, that's a tough one. I guess a new favorite contemporary author, and only because that would mean that there's always the possibility that more stuff would be written by that author that I could enjoy, whereas an old-time great, there's only a finite amount of material from that person. So 26, sonnet or haiku? I guess a haiku. 27, sestina or villanelle? I have no idea what either one of those things are, so pass. 28, spend the evening at a library or a bookstore? Oh, I love both the library and the bookstore. I would only say bookstore if I had actual cash dollars to spend, because I don't like browsing without buying. 29, magazine or Wikipedia article? Magazine, for sure. 30, dictionary or encyclopedia? Dictionary. I like to look up words I don't know. 31, the writer I would like to write my biography. Oh. The writer I would like to write my biography. That's a good question. Judy Blume. 32, I do or do not highlight my books. I do highlight my books, not all the time, but I certainly do it, and especially in nonfiction books. 33, I do or do not write in my books. Yes, I write in my books sometimes. 34, earliest memory of a library. I guess the earliest memory of a library I have would be my elementary school library. I very clearly remember that we only had library on like one afternoon once a month or something like that when I was very young. And so, once a month you would get to go to the library area. We didn't actually have a whole room set aside to be the library. It was like the portion of a room. And once a month you could go and pick out a few books to read. And I remember that being one of my favorite days of the month. So my elementary school library. 35. Last time you went to the library. That was today, actually. I went to pick up a book I had put on hold. Question 36. Have you ever stolen or accidentally stolen books from the library? I don't believe that I have. I'm fairly OCD about returning stuff that I borrow, so I don't think that I have. 37. Ballpark. How many books do you own? Oh. I know I have about 100. Excuse me. Excuse me. I know I have about 145 books to be read, physical books to be read. And then for books that I own that I've already read, I've got to have well over 500 books. Well over 500 books, I'm going to say. 38. How many books do you think would make for a reasonable personal library? All of them. 39. So there's Sense and Sensibilities and Sea Monsters, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, etc. How do you feel about the phenomenon? I think it's trash. I think it's a total money grab and just ridiculous, to say the least. I have no problem with retellings of classics. So if there was, if somebody was really trying to, if somebody had an original idea in that way, I would not necessarily have a problem with it. But there's been such a proliferation of those types of books, and it's just clearly such a money grab that I just think it's terrible. 40. Horror trope you would like to see get more love. None. 41. Something that you think gets underutilized in sci-fi. One thing that I really like in sci-fi is a comedy of manners, which is something that you tended, is more correlated with a Victorian novel, but Lois McMaster Bujold in her Miles for Corsican series has one book in that series called, what's it called? It might be called Conflict of Interest. I can't remember the title, but it's a comedy of manners, and it's like based on the Victorian novel, Jane Austen type thing, where it's all about the social mores and it's all about misunderstandings that happen when people have different ways of looking at social interactions, and I just love that. I love that story so much, and I would love to see that used more in a sci-fi setting. Okay. Let's see. 42. Flash fiction. Form of and format of literature, or it's just a short story dummy. I don't really get the whole point of flash fiction. Like, I think that's a phenomenon that I just don't understand nor see the point of. I have a real problem with anything that's not really long enough to tell a story. Even my short stories need to have a story to them. So I'm not all about that flash fiction stuff. 43. If you could own one book from all of history, what would it be? That's a terrible question. One book? Who could ever own only one book? That's just crazy talk. One book from all of history? Who could? I don't know. I can't choose one book. One book? Who even? That's a terrible question. 44. Audiobooks, the same as reading. Well, clearly it's not the same as reading, because the physical process of consuming a book by audio is different than consuming a book by reading with your eyes. But I don't think that consuming a book on audio is any better or worse than consuming it with your eyes. As long as you're getting the story into your brain, I think you're getting the story into your brain. I really dislike when people say that listening to an audiobook is not reading the book. I mean, I get that it's not physically reading the book, but that I shouldn't be able to count that I've consumed that book simply because I've listened to it on audiobook. I don't buy that theory. 45. The most literary songwriter of your lifetime, Bruce Springsteen, baby. Love him. 46. What writer embarrasses you the most because you haven't read them? Am I embarrassed by anything like that? know that there are any that I'm embarrassed that I haven't read yet. I feel like I've read quite a few, so authors, you know, there's I can't think of any author I haven't read that I'm embarrassed that I haven't read, at least off the top of my head. 47, what writer embarrasses you because you've read too much for them? None. I don't go in for being embarrassed by... I can't think of anything that I'm embarrassed that I've read too much from. 48, what is a biography you're looking forward to reading? A biography I'm looking forward to reading is... why am I drawing a blank? I don't know. Oh, I have a biography of Nixon that I'm looking forward to reading just to see what it's all about. 49, do you have a dream reading cubby? I would love a window seat. Like one of those window seats that's really wide with a nice cushion pillow thing that you could lay on with a cozy blanket and a beautiful sunlit window. Yeah, a window seat. That would be my dream reading cubby. 50, the last literary phenomenon that really got your gears grinding. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one, I guess. Nothing? 51, what was the last piece of literature that changed the way you read? I don't know if there's any one piece of literature that's changed the way I read, but I think the phenomenon of buddy reading has changed the way that I read, in that it's made me slow down and pay attention more to what I'm reading. So I'm going to say buddy reading for that. And then 52, what booktuber have you been watching the most recently? I mean, I watch so many booktubers. The last booktuber that I watched was Anna Bailey Karras. So I've been watching her. And then before her, I think I watched one of Doris's videos from Aldi Books. So I think those are the last two I watched. So that is the end of the 52 Nifty Bookish Questions tag. Thank you so much, Sean, for tagging me. It was a lot of fun. Some of those questions were really hard. A lot more difficult than I thought they were going to be. So I am not sure who has been tagged in this. I have seen quite a few people doing this. We'll talk to you all later.